You show the president throughout this and other administration people saying things, and then people on both sides of the fence, Democrats and Republicans, repeating the same words. How did you know to do that?
Well, I watched it live in October 2002, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. This was a superficial, bumper sticker debate in which significant numbers of members of both chambers accepted from the White House Iraq group talking points. They just took them and read them. A smoking gun will become, you know, and by the way, 3 weeks before the election, November of '02. Now, you have to go back to '02 to realize the emotional condition of this country. I mean, everybody wanted to bomb something. I mean, we were so mad we couldn't spit. And this president brought this debate up, and he used the politics of fear, and it worked. Saddam has this, Saddam has that. He's outside your bedroom, he's under your bed. He took this nation by the ear and led it right into the sword. It's amazing how easy it is to do that.
We've learned that Iraq has trained al-Qaeda members in bomb making.
Saddam Hussein's regime trained al-Qaeda operatives in bomb making.
Saddam is now training al-Qaeda in bomb making.
We know that Iraq and al-Qaeda have had high-level contacts that go back a decade.
Senior level contacts between Iraq and al-Qaeda going back a decade.
The Iraqi regime has been in contact with al-Qaeda for at least a decade.
Saddam Hussein is harboring terrorists.
Harbors these terrorists.
Aid, comfort, and sanctuary to terrorists.
We know that Iraq and the al-Qaeda terrorist network share a common enemy, the United States of America.
Wonder if the Bushes and the people at Fox News and people like that had a big sigh of relief when the hurricane hit. I know it's a horrible tragedy, they must have said, but thank God we don't have to talk about Cindy. My pill box separates them out for the week. This is carbamazepine. It is a nerve pain medication.
Ms. Collins, aye.
This is a drug called Coumadin, and it's a blood thinner.
Mr. Craig, aye.
This is tizanidine. It's an antispasm medication.
Mr. Crapo, aye.
This is gabapentin.
Mr. Daschle.
It's a nerve pain medication.
Aye.
This is bupropion.
Mr. DeWine.
It's an antidepressant.
Aye.
This is omeprazole.
Mr. Dodd.
It's for morning nausea.
Aye.
And this is morphine. It's a narcotic, and in this situation, the effect is not to get high, but to kill pain. And so I have to take more and more of it to stop the pain.
We cannot wait for the final proof, the smoking gun, that could come in the form of a mushroom cloud.
When there is a smoking gun or a mushroom cloud, we have waited too long.
We cannot wait for the smoking gun. A gun smokes only after it has been fired.
The gun smokes only after it is fired.
A gun smokes after it's been fired.
That smoking gun would be a smoking city.
And the smoke of a nuclear blast would mean that we are too late.
Mr. Domenici, aye. Mr. Dorgan, aye. Mr. Edwards, aye.
In the name of the people of this country, in the name of the young men and women whose lives may be put on the line.
Mr. Ensign, aye. Mr. Enzi, aye.
By the decision that this Senate will make is too weighty, is too far-reaching, and it's only fair to the people of America who are going to be asked to give, in some instances, everything that they've got, everything they have, if a war ensues. And I tell you, my friends, I don't want that on my conscience. Not I.
Go back to the erectile dysfunction part. You know that there are people watching and saying, Phil Donahue is just appealing, you know, to the, I don't know how to characterize it. Why did you have to go there is what they're saying.
Because I think, first of all, everybody who enlists in the Army thinks they might come home dead. Nobody thinks of coming home like this. And I'm sorry if people wince when they see that very personal scene. But I think more and more people ought to be wincing at the casualties from this war. The people who aren't wincing are the people who can't see the coffins coming home draped in the American flag. They can't see that because the administration has prohibited the photographing of these coffins. By the way, the administration says you can't photograph this, and the entire mainstream establishment media in America said, okay. There's been no pushback here. I'm hardly the first person to make this point. I'm not claiming original arguments here, but this is the most sanitized. I mean, we're naming our invasions, shock and awe. This is the White House Iraq Group, WIG. These are the advertising agency warriors who name our rolling thunder. They were the ones that wrote these talking points, the ones we just saw. And, I mean, you can't believe how superficial this is. I mean, this was the debate. By the way, an unconstitutional debate. This Congress did not vote up or down. Don't bother them with Article 1, Section 8, as demanded by the framers. What they do is say, here, Mr. President, if you think you have to, here's permission. Then if he goes and it doesn't work, they're able to say, well, wait a minute, CYA, cover your butt. That's what they've done.
Do you think, though, or I'll ask you what you think, most of the people responding after that on the floor were Republicans. Do you think those people are insincere? Do you think they were lying? Do you think?
No, I think they were caught up in the heavy breathing. They were caught up in a belief that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction, even though all they had to do was go to the Intelligence Committee and they would have told him, well, wait, we're not sure. Let's let the UN finish its job. No, I don't think they all had a meeting and say, they wanted to, Pete Stark says in our film, from the floor of the House, this president wants blood. He wants to go to war.
There are risks of action, but there are also risks of inaction.
The risk of inaction is worse than the risk of action.
Inaction is more costly than action. There will be no action that we could possibly take that's going to get the support of people who will always find an excuse for doing nothing when it takes courage to step forward.
If the Iraqi regime is able to produce, buy, or steal
Mr. Nichols,
an amount of highly enriched uranium a little larger than a single softball,
Mr. Reed of Nevada,
it could have a nuclear weapon in less than a year.
Mr. Roberts,
The estimates are publicly that it could have a nuclear weapon in less than a year.
A nuclear weapon would take no longer than a few months to produce.
A matter of months.
I plead with the American people, let your voice be heard.
Mr. Rockefeller, aye. Mr. Santorum, aye.
You need to be heard. You have a right to be heard. You have questions that should be asked and answered.
Mr. Schumer, aye. Mr. Sessions, aye.
Let the leadership of this Congress know that you don't want this resolution rammed through this Congress before the election. The life of your son may depend upon it. The life of your daughter may depend upon it. Get out there and let this leadership know.
Mr. Shelby, aye. Mr. Smith of New Hampshire, aye. Mr. Smith of Oregon, aye. Ms. Snow, aye. Mr. Specter. Aye.
Let the hills and the mountains and the valleys reverberate with the sound of your voices. It's your country. Stand for it now. People out there, speak out.
I'm Claire McCaskill, and I approve this message.
Mr. Torricelli, aye. Mr. Voinovich, aye. Mr. Warner, aye.
The ayes are 77. The nays are 23. The joint resolution is passed.